Welcome to tonight's meeting. Is there anyone that would like to address the board? Is there anyone that would like to address the board? Okay. Moving on, celebrating our district successes. Gail Brownlow, please come forward.
I'm here to talk a little bit about our recent science fair, which was in the first part of February. And we have just passed our second year of having our science fair at Southwest Middle School. And it's just working out so well there. We had 110 students participate this year, grades 3, 4, and 5. And that number's holding pretty steady. In the last couple of years, we've had about that many of students. We had a lot of positive feedback from the parents this year. The great part about, are you checking there? The great part about having the science fair at Southwest is that it's a good introduction for those kids and their families to the middle school, since they'll be going to that school next. It's a safe environment. When we had it at the mall, we had a lot of running around, and it was really hard to supervise children at the mall. So at Southwest, we're able to utilize the square block that goes around the office and the media center. That's where we set up the projects. And the judges are in the media center, which is in the middle. And then we're able to use the little theater for awards. So at the mall, we had to have a lot of pulling up of chairs and trying to cluster to see kids as they're getting awards, and the little theater's already set up for that. So it's a really great place. Next Tuesday, our participants are going to the Science Museum of Minnesota at no cost for them. They were supposed to go before spring break, whenever that ice storm hit us, or snow, and so we have postponed, and there will not be a snowstorm on Tuesday of next week. The other positive thing that happened once we moved our science fair to Southwest is we have a little pocket of time where families before would go off to restaurants and maybe shop the mall, and instead now we are doing an educational experience for the students while judges are doing their final tallies. So last year, which was our first year at Southwest, we had 2 presenters. First, we had the robotics club from the high school, which is a great introduction for the younger students of something they can look forward to. And then the watershed board, help me out with the name, Shell Rock? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So they came and presented to us. This year we had Ken Fiskus, who came and presented about his experience at the solar eclipse last September. So again, just really connecting with science and showing the students different aspects and how adults or older students participate with science later on in life. One of the great parts about the science fair is that we have a great response from community members with volunteering. And as I said, we had about 110 participants. I had 90 volunteers this year. It takes that many to pull it off. I had 55 of those volunteers were high school students. I have National Honor Society students that volunteer. Key Club, which is a relatively new club. It's affiliated with Kiwanis, I believe, and the Robotics Club are other students to participate, but all 3 of those organizations helped me recruit. One last thing we were able to bring back this year is we got shirts for all of the students. So I brought a shirt so you can see it. Yes, they're going to wear them, which will be so helpful at the museum to know which ones are Albert Lee students. I have some of my helpers here. I couldn't pull this off without coordinators at every building. So today we have Crystal O'Connor, who's from Halverson. She's a 5th grade teacher. And you going to stand up? Come on up. Jenna Miller is from Hawthorne. She's also a 5th grade teacher. And Anna Westcott from Lakeview. She's a 5th grade teacher. And we also have Kristen Kylo, who couldn't be with us today. She is our coordinator at Sibley. She's a 3rd grade teacher. And one last thing, we still coordinate this event with St. Theodore's School, so that is a good partnership that they're still joining us with this.
So, Gail, on behalf of
I like the T-shirt idea too, because after spending a week down in Florida, you see lots of people with these shirts they can find each other with. So thanks a lot. Wonderful experience, the science fair. Okay, number 5, approval of today's agenda. Okay, a second?
Second.
Okay, Jill approved, Neil a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, the same sign. Approval passes. Oh, sorry, Mark. I got you. Thank you, sir. All right, consent items, also action, looking for a motion for approval there.
So moved.
We got a motion's moved, looking for a second.
Second.
And Jill seconds, so Angie makes a motion, Jill will second. Any discussion on the consent? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Those opposed, the same. Okay. All right, on to the reports. Dr. Funk.
There we go. Just a couple things tonight. I never remember to tell the board, so this year I'm remembering to tell the board that the Teacher of the Year banquet, and maybe you were going to tell for me, all right? Sorry, I stole Angie's thunder, is actually at the social piece of it starts at 3:30 on the 28th, and the actual program itself starts at 4 o'clock. So if board members could be there, that's a week from Wednesday. So. Sorry. And then the other thing, or maybe I'll steal your thunder too, or maybe you can tell us, when's prom this year? April 21st. Okay, it's my mother's birthday, so I remembered. All right, those are the 2 real things that I've got coming up. And I'll talk a little bit more later on when we get to the referendum presentation schedule, but a lot of planning and coordinating have been going on with stuff coming on with the upcoming referendum. So that's what I've got.
Thank you. School board member reports. Angie.
Well, I don't really have anything to report now. No. I'm on the Teacher of the Year committee, and yes, like Dr. Funk said, it is on March 28th, and the social starts at 3:30. So I know that they would be very pleased if you could all come. At the high school.
It's hard to see the light in the sun. For Family Services Collaborative, some of our aims are to decrease the ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and increase resiliency among kids in our community. So this Thursday, the 22nd, will be a free local training, and I will be out of town and unable to attend. But if anyone is interested in attending, I can get you the information. It's open to anyone interested, 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. on Thursday. It's the Historical Trauma Training presented by Sam Simmons, and it's put on by the Minnesota Communities Caring for Children. And it's focusing on trauma across generations. And we know that we have different family systems as well as people groups in our community who have been affected by trauma throughout generations. And so this should be a very interesting educational experience, and it is free. And so if you would like more information, let me know. Thank you.
I did not go to Florida during the spring break. I went to Cleveland, Ohio, to attend the NCAA National Wrestling Tournament. And one of the highlights of the tournament, I'm going to make a point here, was the singing of the national anthem just before the finals. And here's a quiz for the school board members and administration that were there. The person who sang the national anthem was a man by the name of Mark Lindquist. Now, you tell me who he is.
He was at one of our main speakers at the school board
You
convention.
are right, and he sang the national anthem for us, and he is fantastic. A retired military person, a veteran of Afghanistan anyway, a farm boy from out by the, where? Ortonville. Yeah, out where the bump is on the west part of the state, and he's fantastic. So I thought that was interesting. It was quite a coincidence. He looked familiar, you know, when he sang, and when I heard him sing, he was really familiar. And so I looked it up, and there he was. Johanna is going to present on the agenda. She's on the agenda to talk about a site visit we are taking to Alexandria, and I'm included in that, so I'll defer to her on that one.
Mark is joining us via Skype. Sorry, Mark, I didn't mention that before. Do you have anything to report? Okay, thank you. I as well attended the referendum meeting, and it was a very good meeting. We had several people there talking about basically getting together, you know, just pretty much going through the process again that we've looked at, and then also answering some questions about the facilities. Also had a business education meeting and then a conference call for the Minnesota State School Board, the Insurance Trust. So, teacher report.
All right, so I'm Julie Eaton. I am a fourth grade teacher at Sibley this year, as well as our district QComp coordinator. And so I just have a few things that I want to share as the teacher representative tonight. So from the elementary schools, we had an author visit, Mike Winnetka. He is a children's author from St. Paul, and he came and did presentations at each of the elementary buildings, and that was very exciting for the students. Each of the buildings also had Prairie Fire Theater come to each of the buildings and work with students for a week and perform at the end of each week. Sibley in particular, the 3rd through 5th grade students are working on a musical right now for their spring performance. That'll happen at the beginning of April. Southwest, the Tiger Trot is coming up, the annual fundraiser for Southwest, and that's on the 14th of April. Tiger's Roar is this weekend at the high school, Thursday through Saturday. And then as far as professional learning, the K through 5 district teams have all gotten together twice this year. So all the kindergarten teachers, all 1st grade, et cetera, up through 5th grade, have gotten together twice and were led by teachers, instructional coaches, gathered ideas of things that teachers were asking about and led some professional development on those 2 days. And that was really, everyone really valued that time together to work on different staff development needs and things and making sure that all the elementary buildings are collaborating together. And as far as our learning team, Dr. Funk and I help lead the learning team with all of the admin and the teacher leaders from all the buildings. And we had a representative from Solution Tree come. His name is Paul Farmer, and he came and just helped us. We had talked with them ahead of time about kind of where we're at and how we can move forward with how we're leading the district with our PLC initiatives and all of that collaboration work, and to build teacher leaders and whatnot. And so that was very exciting and really helped us kind of create a different path or continue our path and some action steps for the future. And then just one thing, as an instructional coach, I'm also an instructional coach too in there with my many hats. But I wanted to share a reflection that I got from one of the other teachers that's an instructional coach in the district. We're working really hard to help teachers and everyone understand that we're all in this together and that we're all here to learn and improve our practice on a daily basis. And so this is just a reflection that we got from a teacher. She said, or he said, I think this is where our PLC, with the IC's help, has truly come into play. We have brought up issues in the past, but nothing is really done about these issues. Now, as a PLC, we dove right into trying out a book of Who's Doing the Work. It's a reading book for reading instruction. And we are seeing such high growth from our students with academic language and learning. A huge piece for me is that students are beginning to love reading again. As a PLC, we are just fine with needing to grow and bounce ideas off of each other. I'm very happy with where our PLC is as we are doing what is best for student learning. As a result of reading this book, it has driven our instruction during shared reading and circle conversations. The students are having to do more of the work. Therefore, the students are having to persevere more and have strategies to overcome areas where they struggled more at the beginning. I still think it's tough with how much a teacher should help if a student is struggling too much within the work of Who's Doing the Work. I am able to provide different forms of feedback for my students within reading and math as well. I'm questioning their thought process more, and I am more specific with what they are doing well and what they could improve on. I think the process of having the instructional coach come in and teach first, then us as teachers be observed, and finally be able to observe each other is a true process for us as professionals to learn and grow from each other. And this teacher also said that they would not be doing all of this if this instructional coach wasn't there. And so she thanked the instructional coach for pushing them and supporting them and finding answers and making things happen. This has been the best, or my career best year of teaching because of your help. So this was really helpful to see as we're in our third year now of instructional coaching, and we knew from the start that it would be a process and building trust and whatnot. So this was exciting to read and see. So thank you for letting me share it with you.
Thank you, Julie. It is nice to get that kind of feedback because sometimes people just don't say it, but they know it's there. So great work. Okay, curriculum and instruction, Kathy Niebuhr, graduation report.
So the Minnesota Department of Education on February 27th released to the public the new graduation rates, and what we received was a revised graduation rates from 2012 to 2017. And so now we can actually correlate with the same formula those rates from 12 to 17. And we received everybody's graduation rates across the state, disaggregated into all of the new ESSA subgroups. And so what you have here is in 2012, what our graduation rate was, and then in 2017. And so what we did is, this is the school districts in the Big 9, so they're not broken apart by high schools here, so this includes all the area learning centers, all the high schools in each school district. And you'll see Albert Lea Area Schools is at the top for growth. We don't have the top graduation rate, but we are making strides. So we have grown 13.23 points. And down at the bottom, you'll see the state average over that same time span is 4.3, and the Big 9 average is 2.1. So that's all of the students in all of these districts. So then this is the high schools. So these are all of the senior high schools, not including the ALCs in the Big 9. And again, you'll see the growth from 2012 to 2017. And we've talked for several years here at the school board level about growth being important. So growing at 9.41 percentage points. And our goal in the district is 90%, so we've hit that at Albert Lee High School. We haven't hit it as a school district, but we have hit it at Albert Lee High School. So Dr. Funk had the opportunity to go talk with high school teachers last week and and the ALC and talk about how well they have done in this area. And so this is our district trend then. This comes from, again, all of the groups, and you can see we've gone from 67.2 to 80.43. And then here's broken out by, at the top, Albert Lee High School. So in 2012, Albert Lee High School was 82.05, and they are now at 91.46. And every math teacher will tell me you should start at 0 in the corner there, and you'll see this graph starts at 76. So I did want to point out that little maybe error in making. Let's go back to that one. And then the ALC, which I think is really exciting news, has gone from 14.55 to 53.03. So focusing on graduation, we have an increased rate. So now the next one. So this is then, they've disaggregated by many groups, and one group in particular here, you'll see the special education students. Again, this is across the district, not just at Albert Lee High School or at the ALC. So we've gone from 28.21 in 2012 to 58.7. And so a 30-point percentage growth in that time span. Our EL learners, again, a 35% growth. And I think a couple of points is this is a 4-year graduation rate. And keep in mind that our special education students and many of our English language learner students can have up to a 7-year plan. So we are pleased to see the growth in that 4-year rate up by 35%. And then we have additional subgroups. One is our Hispanic students, and you'll see our district overall growth is from 41 to 65%, and even higher if we were to disaggregate this by ALC and the high school. But again, we are the highest growth in the Big 9. And then our free and reduced lunch, free and reduced meals, as they report on this report, is grown by 22%. So again, the highest in the Big 9. And then this is all the non-ALC high schools where we would rank across the board, and you'll see Northfield, Winona, Rochester, Mayo, and Mankato West, and then the other high schools. So looking at those, sat down with the high school administrators who are behind and just me here, and we just kind of talked about how did we get here? How did we make this leap? And so if we go to the next slide, I think overall, as Mark and Jeff would tell you, and other high school staff, certainly positive relationships with students is the foundation for building success. And we've talked about Top 20 to help build staff skills, and this year working with students, building student skills. And as Jill indicated, having an ongoing discussion about ACEs, social emotional learning, via staff PD and school social workers and our counselors. And I think you've heard Julie talk about that importance of helping teachers help teachers and connecting, and the importance of staff development. We have for the last 6 years, talked about the DeFore model and the 4 critical questions, and we've really done a lot of foundational work with Nancy Remmert at the high school, and this year again at Southwest on what is a guaranteed and viable curriculum for all. We've spent time prioritizing and sequencing standards. We've talked about a school-wide PLC vision. As Julie mentioned, Paul Farmer came and worked with our learning team, and that really is a school-wide PLC vision. And that teacher leadership. I think a credit to the ALC and really working closely with the high school counselors on intentional credit recovery process. We have a new policy, Credit for Learning. We allow teachers to use alternative assessments. We have a hybrid and a direct instruction credit recovery process instead of one class for all. The ALC is very intentional on focusing on earning credits. We've made improvements to ALC systems, both contractually Schedule-wise, their workflow, they're allowed multiple models for instructional delivery. Say that again? And the location of our ALC at Riverland certainly has been really supportive for our students. You as a school board have supported jointly the truancy officers. We now have monthly meetings with the court systems that our assistant principals, deans attend. We've spent some time over the last 3 years really talking with high school teachers about what those transcripts grades mean. And we now have at least a couple of areas at the high school really talking about grading and assessment and what that means for, how that really measures student learning. We've worked heavily with our special education staff about standards and coursework. And we've made some very intentional staffing decisions. I know that's always a point of discussion, especially at this time of year. We have Jerry Bijak in the EL department at the high school, both as a content teacher and an EL teacher. We have Thomas Delano, who is working on his EL license but has some English background. So another area we're focusing on. We have counselors. We have 3 counselors at the high school. We have a counselor at Riverland who also services our ALC students at Southwest Middle School. So very intentional working at students who may be at risk once they move to the high school. So to say that those are the definitive reasons that our graduation rate has gone up, I can't really say that, but I think we've been intentional at the secondary level, really transitioning students to the high school and talking about the importance of a diploma. So, questions?
Just a comment, go back to the, whoops, sorry, Brittany. Go back to that slide 10. So one of the things that we often talk about when we show data such as this, and I'll just bring in this one data point, is comparing apples to apples. Okay, the only apple comparison here is this is the Big Nine. Okay, we're all members of the Big Nine. Okay, but what this does not take into account are our student demographics in any way, shape, or form. And I think that the fact that an example is, I believe 38% of the state is on a free or reduced lunch program. Okay, I think we're a little over 50% here as a school district. So we have different kids. If you were to look at Faribault and Austin, they're in the mid-50s or almost 60% as far as free and reduced. So that is taken into account when we're looking at these factors. And so for us, and I'm just focusing on the free and reduced at this point. So if you look at us with, if this were to be rejiggered based upon free and reduced, we'd be on the far right-hand side with Faribault and Austin over here, just with that data point. So to see us moving towards the top of the Big Nine with, you know, the demographic we have is just tremendous kudos to the teachers and administrators in this district for really focusing on meeting the needs of our students. And I think that you have all your programming things you talked about, Kathy, but I think that's where it's the relationships and it's meeting those student needs. So that's my 2 cents as superintendent.
I think it's exciting to see the growth, and I think it is, as you mentioned, we probably can't pin it on any one thing, but you know, recognizing the at-risk students and being able to help them and probably structure learning to them. I mean, that's just like everything we do in life. We don't all learn the same, and if it's going to only be one way, like Mike said, then it really becomes a issue on the demographics we're working with. But kudos to the people that have been able to put these programs together and now maintain and even increase it from there. So thank you very much.
Yeah, Kathy, in looking at these graphs, it is very encouraging, and you're right, our demographics sort of contribute to where we are placed. And Northfield, Winona, Mayo, and Mankato West all have some pretty favorable demographics. And now you know, we've attained a lot, but we've got a ways to go too. And it would be nice to get up there in their neighborhood in terms of graduation rates. And the second thing that I'm that really jumps out at me is we just blew everybody away in terms of growth, which sounds really good, but when you look at the graphs, the explanation for that is simple. We were really bad in 2012. And I'm curious about that. I can't believe we were that bad. Okay, you suggested some possible explanations for the growth, but can you comment on that a little further? What are we measuring things differently? Or
Yeah,
is this-
I can, and I don't think they were quite the same. Go back a couple slides, Brittany. Go to the slide 2. Okay, 67%. Yeah, that's probably pretty accurate as where we were as a district. I think we were probably a little bit higher, but when they redid the numbers here. But go to the next slide. Next. Okay, special ed, all right. Yeah, we were really that low, okay, or close to that low. And a lot of it was, I think the focus within special ed is, okay, wasn't necessarily graduating within 4 years. It was, we're graduating and we're on an IEP, and this is just looking at 4-year data. And, a few years ago, we had a different special ed director come in and really take a look at aligning the special education systems with the regular education systems. And I think we really started to do that, and that's when we started to see a change there. Go ahead to the next one again. EL, yeah, I think it's very similar. We are seeing a pretty significant increase in our EL population, and I think that before really Mary Jo got into her position a few years ago here, we didn't have somebody who was really focused on, okay, this population of students. And she mentioned Jerry Bijak, or Kathy did. I think we are paying significantly more attention to meeting the needs of all of our students than I think we were in the past. And then the ALC one, where the slide goes like this, I will tell you that the reason we're seeing a significant difference in ALC is 2 people. It's Kathy Niebor, who's sitting right here. When Kathy was in on an interim basis for the ALC for part of a year, and Kathy and I went and did a site visit someplace, and Kathy came back from that and said, we have to change our focus on what we're doing with these students. Instead of having a mini Albert Lee High School, she changed the focus there to our goal here is to graduate from high school. And so Kathy and then Tanya, who took over permanently in that position, that has been their focus, is we are going to get these kids to graduate and we're going to help them graduate. So part of it has been how we've looked at it. Part of it's looking at how are we helping each of these subgroups out, that I don't think we had a good systemic answer individually within the systems prior to this. But I would also say it's getting good people in the right positions and supporting them, and I think that we've been able to do that.
Also, if we could go back to the Big 9, or, yeah, the graphs of all of the schools. I think it was, 10. I'm just wondering if we want to compare apples to apples, and I know we don't have the figures right offhand, but how do the other districts compare to us in our percentage of students that are in ALC compared to high school? Do we have any idea where we would fall, or can we get that information?
I can give you every school in the state. So ALC relative to other ALCs. Yeah, I can pull that.
Well, as far as
Population?
yes, percentage of population
Okay.
in ALC. Yeah,
Yep, we
thank
can
you.
pull that. Yep.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you, Kathy. Thank you. Joanna, Pathways update.
Turn this up. There we go. Good evening. So just a rundown of some of the things that I've been working on, came into this position at the winter break. So some of the main pieces that I've been working on is the early middle college application, and that is an opportunity for ALC students to, for the right student at the ALC to begin taking coursework at Riverland. Works out real nicely, again, because of our location. So tapping into those students that would be ready for doing some concurrent work. It allows for some flexibility than what your typical PSEO student would need to, some of those requirements that they would need to meet. Allows some flexibility with that, so that if they wanted to start in a welding program and you have the right student, they can begin to do that. We have a conference call with the State Department tomorrow to go over our application and look at some of the pieces in there that they had questions about. Transitioning to taking over the Perkins from Kathy, and really within Perkins is your career in tech education, your national standards, and all of those teaching and learning pieces that go along with career and tech ed. And that's probably my biggest learning curve is those pieces with Perkins. Working with Jean Eaton and the foundation program that she has been working on the last couple of years, and helping her to streamline the speakers for the 8th grade class and the shadow experiences for the 12th grade students in the econ classes is another big piece. And then also looking at Southwest Middle School and the program that they have been working on, kind of went by the wayside a little bit this year with the changes with the chamber. The partnership really was with the chamber and John Double, and so working on that, we've met with them and looking at how we want to continue that, some of those speakers and some of those opportunities for the kids at Southwest moving forward. And so if you'll click on the career pathway, I just want to show you, we're not going to spend a lot of time, but looking at this or going through this, but what I've done is I've broken our courses at the high school into our career clusters that are very familiar with counselors and secondary programming. So you can see within the ag and industrial tech area what coursework we have available at the high school. In the engineering manufacturing cluster field, you can see what coursework is available for students at different grade levels. Human services, and business and marketing, those areas, and then communications and the arts, and global electives is another area where it's just kind of where they don't fit specifically into a career cluster, but what some of the global electives are, and that would be like your world languages and your music programs and physical education and things like that. So that is one piece that helps us look at programming and seeing if we are hitting areas to cover those career areas so that students can get exposure with coursework. This slide is some of the programs that we currently have in place that go along with that exploration and experiential education for students. So you can see the chart there with that. The bullet points at the bottom are the goals of career and tech education and where we want to see it go. One of the biggest pieces is increasing those opportunities for special populations, whether it be special education, EL students having opportunities to tap into these experiences and growing it through those areas as well. And then continuing to look at that transition from high school to the next step, whatever that might be. This is a list of the things that I have been to since the break, and really looking at taking the time to go to some of these things and looking at how other places are building partnerships and increasing their exploration and those experiences at other schools and other community colleges and how they're building those partnerships. And then this week, we are making another site visit to Alexandria area schools. And Neil's going to join us with that, and a couple of teachers, Jeff Halverson, will be going up there Wednesday and Thursday for that.
So on that site visit to Alexandria, go back to the clusters page for the career pathway link. Yep. So what the Alexandria has, as you've probably heard us talk about it before, but they have different academies, and they have them focused on maybe a business academy and a health and human services academy. And so what I asked Johanna to do is start to take a look at, okay, if we were going to potentially go down the academy route here at Albert Lea High School, how would our courses align within these different areas? And so you've seen, here's just a first review of the various areas that we have. And this seems to be there seems to be a considerable more emphasis statewide and nationwide, really, on career and technical education. And this academy approach that Neil and Johanna and some of the others are going to get to see here up in Alexandria later this week is starting to be replicated throughout the state. And so I think it's great we're sending some folks back up there. And so this is our first cut at kind of what ours currently looks like, aligned with these different clusters.
Are you able to identify any of the clusters that might be a little minimal compared to some others that might have an abundance of electives at this point?
Health sciences, yeah. Would be an area that we would most likely want to take a look at and grow. It seems to be a popular career area that students say they have an interest in, and there is a huge spectrum of the health sciences, definitely.
Hey, Mark Shodia, I want to ask this question. They seem to have some sort of internship or some sort of relationship up in Alexandria with their local hospital. Do we have anything like that? Does Mayo have anything like that with high school students in the southern part of the state?
No. High school students, unfortunately, Mayo feels because of privacy rules, they're very strict about what high school students can participate in, but very accommodating to college students.
Okay, that's good to know.
Concurrent college students? Oh, that's a good question.
So concurrent college students, Mark?
Yes, current college students.
How about concurrent, who are taking college courses but still in high school?
I'm assuming, Mark, that you mean like if they're a nursing student, if they're in the nursing program with Riverland, not necessarily a concurrent or PSEO student not taking a nursing program with Riverland. Is that where the difference is?
Oh, yeah, well, that's a great question. Let me find out the answer to that. If being in the PSEO makes you a college student in their eyes, I'll ask that.
Yeah.
And does it matter if they're 18, if they're an adult?
And the 18 matters as well, yes.
Any other questions? Okay, I just have a couple of sheets for you just to give you some background knowledge on the career clusters and some of the different types of experiential learning. Thank you.
Okay, Mike, referendum update.
This is Brittany, by the way. She's helping out cover for Ashley. And Brittany does a lot of stuff in the front office for us, and She actually has a background in public relations from St. Thomas, so she's been very helpful. So what Brittany has put together, have you been able to see this since we emailed this out to you, this link? Okay. Okay, I see Angie's been able to see it. Is her name? Okay, so these are some of the presentations that we have that are upcoming, that Mark, Mike, me, Afton are going to be talking at. In addition to these, or maybe they're on there, are the staffs? Yeah, the staffs are all on there, yep. So, so what we have is, like, for example, if anybody wants to get up tomorrow morning and come to Southwest and listen to the Southwest staff or any questions, I'll be talking to them at 7:30. But more importantly, I think tomorrow night, the community meetings at Lakeview at 5:30, if a board member wants to show up for that, or really the ones we have out in the community, it would be great if we had board member representations there. So basically, if you have the link, you can just go in and just type your name in, and then we know. And our concern is we only want to have a couple board members at a meeting. We don't want to have more than one or more than two, possibly three, but that would be almost a committee type deal then. So if you're interested in coming to any of these, it's great for the district to have board representation there, and it would be a real good thing. Now, I see Brittany's got me in 3 places on April 9th. Oh, no, you moved to April 10th. Halverson's now April 10th. Okay, we're good. All right, good. Okay. All right. So that's kind of it. And then the other one there is click on presentation ideas, the bottom tab. So if a board member wants to add a idea to the list, hey, we want you to talk to the Eagles, the Moose, the Good Sam is a group that, have you talked to them already? Okay, all right. So put it on this list, and then Brittany will contact them and set something up. And then we'll add it to the other list as far as the date and time. So that is kind of what we're doing there. And I think, are we out in Hayward on the 9th or something like that? So do you want to talk then? Or would you want to have Jim do it or somebody else speak?
I've never turned down an opportunity to talk.
Okay. Okay, so that's your neck of the woods, right? Yeah. Yep, so, okay. So we can put Neil down for that.
What date is that?
April 9th.
I'll update this.
Okay. I think you said it was the 9th. I think. Yeah. Yep.
The only thing I have on my calendar for April 9th is the referendum presentation.
Which one?
Okay. Well, good. All right, so you're there. So questions on this, or how to do it, or any thoughts, comments on it? We'll talk to, yeah, so we want to talk to everybody we possibly can. Angie? Yeah.
Can we kind of count on this to be updated? Like, for example, I don't remember which one it was. I was like, oh, I'm not sure if I can make it, so I certainly don't want to put my name down saying I'm going to be there. But if no one else has signed up, then I can just expect that no other board members are going to show up, and I can just show up. But then what if we all did that, I suppose? I suppose I'd have to put my name on there at the last minute, right?
Yeah, but it should update live as soon as we do it. And put Neil as the presenter in Hayward. We'll give Jim won't have to go out there now. We'll
So at the last minute, if I decide I can make one, I'll put my name on there really quick before I head there.
That's fine. And if
Okay,
you head there
perfect.
and there's 2 or 3 other board
Then I
members
just
there.
leave. I'll
Yep.
wave and say goodbye. Okay.
Yep. Yep.
I get a notification whenever you go in here, so I can see that. Okay, perfect.
Okay, other thoughts or comments on that? Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Okay, number 10, resolution establishing the combined polling places for school district elections not held on the date of the statewide election. It's an action item.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Superintendent Funk, for your consideration is, it's actually a technical correction to the resolution that we previously had passed back in December, I believe it was. So there are two items. On page 2, the location for Bridge Community Church in Albert Lee, the location, the name of the building is correct. The street address has to be corrected to 335 Clark Street West to reflect the side of the building where the polling location is, where the entry is. So that's the reason for that tweak. Then on page 3, the polling location itself in the city of Clarks Grove, the building where it had been listed was destroyed in a tornado last year, and so we had to first wait to see what the city of Clarks Grove was going to identify as a polling location, because then we had to use that exact location. So it is now First Baptist Church in Clarks Grove for that polling location. Just as a side note, upon approval of this revised resolution, we will be working on sending out notices to all registered voters of the notice of polling locations. So every registered voter will get a notice in the mail.
Any discussion on that from anyone?
I move in favor of the revised resolution. I'm assuming we need to
Yep,
vote
that was
on
nice.
this.
You bet. Any seconds to the revisions?
Second.
And Neil makes a motion to adopt a revised locations, and Angie seconds it. Any other discussion at all?
Do we know at this point what dates will be the absentee ballots?
Absentee voting begins March 23rd. And all absentee voting is conducted at the county auditor's office. Even the mail ballots is all coordinated with the county auditor's office.
And it's open until when?
The county auditor's office, I would have to double check on that.
The balloting?
When does it close?
Yeah.
The absentee ballots voting process would go until the day before the election.
Any other discussion? Okay, all right. We're ready for a vote. All those in favor of the...
Does it need to be a roll call? Does it need to be a roll call?
Ah, yeah, you're right. Very good. Roll call. Okay. Angie?
Aye.
Jill? Aye. Neil? Aye. Mark? Aye. And I also. 5-0. Thank you. Looks like nothing else on the agenda. Julie, thank you for coming tonight and all your great information, and everyone else. Next board meeting looks like it'll be April 2nd on Monday at 5 p.m. here as a study session. And I'm looking for a motion for adjournment. So moved. So moved by Jill and second by Angie. Thanks, Mark.